This episode of The Young Turks is brought to you by Audible.com.
Fox Business has Monica Crowley on as a guest. The host is Eric Bolling, and they're going to have an absolutely silly discussion about torture. Let's have some fun and watch.
Hold on, let me just go through this. Here's enhanced techniques: waterboarding, hypothermia, stress positions, abdomen slaps. The other alternatives are yelling loud music, sleep deprivation, right. Barking dogs. By the way, that's a typical weekend at my house with my 12-year-old son.
I was going to say, this is an average night at Fidel. Okay, I mean, to talk about these things as extreme, I think, seems a little crazy. Look, we are in a war. Fight the damn war. We are not dealing with traditional soldiers who wear the uniforms of a country. We are dealing with enemy combatants. These are terrorists who operate in the shadows. They infiltrate nations, and guess what? They target civilians. This is not army-to-army combat. There are no rules. They do not play by the rules. And I'll tell you, once you have them in custody, the United States should be doing all of these things and more in order to extract information. And what we heard even before this weekend and what went down with OBL, what we heard from a series of nonpartisan intelligence reports was that waterboarding and all of the other things you mentioned produced action.
She was saying produced actionable intelligence, which of course we went over the last 2 days to show that it did not do that. Now, I like how they minimize all this. Like, oh, so we didn't let them sleep for a while. No, not for a while. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was not allowed to sleep for over 100 hours straight. You know what happens to you if you go for over 100 hours without sleeping? Well, humans aren't built for that. That's why they call it torture. And the barking dogs, they make it seem like, oh, look, Rover's barking. No, they were barking in front of your face like they were going to bite your face off. Hypothermia, he just throws it out there. Oh, you almost froze to death. Oh, come on. That happens at my house all the time. Well, then turn on the heat. Don't endanger your family's life, okay, if they're suffering through hypothermia. And the list goes on, and there was some slapping, and then they drowned him a little bit. What the hell's going on in your house? Okay, it makes me concerned. And the bubblehead, Monica Crowley, like she knows what she's talking about. First of all, she says, we're at war, okay? But at war, there are rules of war. Then she says, well, they're not wearing clothing, so we should ignore the rules of war. But wait a minute, are we at war or are we not at war? Should we abide by the rules of war or should we not? I don't know, we should do a lot worse to them. Oh, thank you for your contribution. In reality, people who do know what they're talking about, for example, Glenn Carl, who served 23 years in the CIA's Director of Operations and for a time led the interrogation of high-value detainees, says this enhanced interrogation techniques do not work. But here's the part I love. Now, you've heard that a million times. But he added, at the CIA, they would often ignore any information they got from these torture tactics because they thought it was so unreliable, they didn't want to muck up their work. They were like, well, if we consider that, that's probably going to be a wrong lead. And by the way, the main thing they use is, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was waterboarded and he gave up some information months later, right? To give you a sense of how false that is, every single person involved in that process says Khalid Sheikh Mohammed waterboarded over 180 times, and he lied every single time. That courier, whose name we eventually found out, he said, oh, that courier, he hasn't worked for Al-Qaeda in forever, and gave the wrong name. Al-Libi, same thing, gave the wrong name. Because they don't want to help you. Of course, they're being tortured, and they know that you don't know if it's the right name or the wrong name. It's not like 24 where Jack Bauer finds out 13 seconds later if it's the right name or the wrong name. We know for a fact they gave wrong information every time in those cases. So the professionals say it's unreliable. But Monica Crowley says we should do worse. It's a big deal. By the way, that's Fox Business. I feel so sorry for the poor schmuck who turns into that channel to try to figure out what he should buy in the stock market or which way the business world is going. First of all, what in the world does torture have to do with the business community? And second of all, these are the people who make up facts all the time. Whatever you do, do not listen to them for investment advice. Are you crazy? Or look, if you are that crazy and you're a conservative and you think that's the way the station to listen to, I kind of want to say, have at it, Hoss. See how that works out for you. Audible.com is the leading provider of audiobooks.
In fact, they have over 75,000 titles.
And you can listen on your iPod or your MP3 player. You can listen to it anywhere at any time. It's incredibly convenient.
And they have books in every single genre imaginable. You can get a free audiobook if you go to audiblepodcast.com/TYT.
Totally true.